boys. Coffee boys. How's that look? Let's see. Wow, that's a terrible view because it's from the camera.
Poker chips, we have a serious game of poker. It's like $20 for real. I got poker.
Casey's staying here.
We can play it like right now. After the meeting. Quit buying $20. You want to? I hate to take all your money. Christina's here. Yo. Yo.
Yo.
Stop trying to cheat.
Bro. Hey, today. You gotta switch it up. You gotta switch it up.
How's that look? I know.
You know that doesn't look good at all.
Do you want it straight in front of you?
Yeah, of course.
Morning.
It has to be perfect. Perfect as it possibly could be. Do that. The mic.
Oh, yeah.
Mic up.
It should be on the podium. Well, that's pretty damn straight. That's pretty damn straight there.
Hey, okay. Good. Yeah, maybe point it a little bit down because I can't reach all the way up there to right anyways. Okay. Plug in over there.
Yeah.
Today I don't have some.
Good.
Here, I'll turn it.
Okay.
AOP, is that AOP to chapter 3? Test.
Perfect.
Good.
Oh,
Let's make sure it's even on this thing. Here, if I pull it away, does it sound different?
I'm good.
No. Okay. I think we got to change it to Samson. Okay. How about now?
Yep.
Different.
But yeah, it's a little bit
That's
different.
not good.
Less echoey. Right. Build internal. What's that? Oh, here, we could probably hear you now. Somebody talking?
What's up?
Hello.
Put them on the screen. That way I don't have to look down. Yeah.
Testing.
That's what we got to do. Did you guys like the fish tanks in here last night? A couple. Yes. We have someone. You guys remember, I took the camera or the computer and I set it like and I picked it up on top of it's just because it was, so this on, right? Because, all right, so I think we're good. Any?
Oh, Tom, you're going in and out.
Or audio.
Can't hear you.
Audio. audio was going in and out. Is it better or worse?
There we go. That's better.
It's good? Okay. Let's try it again. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Goes out in between.
Do you have any questions? Yeah, Faith had a question. So Faith has a question. I'll just repeat it for everybody.
So I was just wondering how you go about responding to someone who asks about whether or not like we do some investing, and or if they're like, oh, if they're like going through whole life and like, oh, so it's kind of like an investment, and you're like, yeah, but no, like, how do you respond to that? Or sometimes people will be like, oh, so do you guys do like any of this? Do you have Roth IRAs or this or that? Like they ask me if we do investing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the question is if they ask you, you know, do you guys do anything else? Investing? Question like, you know, the reason is because we work with, you know, 40,000 different unions, credit unions, organizations. And after true needs of all the families, you know, what they found out is they had to take care of the most important things. And that's what they contracted us to do, is because to be as an advisor, their job is to help them build financial place. And all. You don't have to tell it to the client.
We can't hear you, Tommy.
Oh, what's going on?
It's going in and out. It's very quiet.
Do you think it's the internet? It's this microphone.
Can't hear you.
Here, let's just try it. Let me get off of this. And go to.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, I just took off the microphone. Maybe the battery's dying, you know, maybe the battery's dying. So, but it looks like it's good. So maybe we'll just keep this on. If I just keep this microphone going, does this sound good so far? All right, I don't like this microphone because it has that, you know, like echoey sound, right? You know, I'd recommend everybody to, or not, I don't know if I recommend you to get one of these. But okay, we'll just put that down for now and keep it moving. So on a side note, you know, just for us to know is that, and you could explain this to a client if you really wanted to, but you know, I would even, you know, ask my boss when I was a financial advisor. I'd say, well, you know, shouldn't we be worried about the stocks? You know, they have $500 left at the end of the month. Don't you think that they should be putting that towards investments? We could take that and put it into a stock. And if he did that every single month at $6,000 a year, we could really get his portfolio built up. I was like, in 10 years, that's $60,000 we could have built up for this guy. And if we showed him how to double it, and I'm thinking that's how I'm brand new out of college. This is what I was hired to be what? A financial advisor. I was like, let's go. My first client, he made some good income. He had a lot of money left over at the end of the month, right? And my mentor at the time told me that we can put together the best plan in the world and we can build up all this wealth for him. But if something happens to that person 10 years from now and they passed away or something, all that work that we would have done will be gone overnight. You just saved up $60,000 or $100,000. How long do you think that $100,000 is going to last his wife? After she pays for, you know, paying off the funeral, paying off any debts, then she has to have money for food and groceries. That might last her a couple months, maybe a year if she really spreads it out. So we did all this work for 15 years and it was gone. So it's great to have a financial plan in place, but we have to protect that plan. And that is actually the most important part of the financial plan, because without that, it literally could be all for nothing. So in that same sense, Guess who also knows that vital information as far as financial planning goes? All the 40,000 different organizations that we service, right? So they know that, yeah, sure. But the problem is, most of the families we meet with, they don't even have enough money to take care of their 6 months of living expenses that they need set aside. Most of them don't have that. And most of them, if they passed away, like think about this, if you barely got $10 right now to set aside on a weekly basis to take care of your funeral and final arrangements, how do you think she's going to come up with $10,000 when you're not even here to help her? So they could barely come up with enough money to eat the, some of them have too much month left at the end of their money. You know what I mean? We got to help them prioritize, obviously. And for the majority of them, they don't. But some of them, they're the opposite. I have clients like that. They're like, Tommy, help me do financial planning. And I'd sit down with them and I'd be like, well, you're spending more money than you're making. So guess what the first job I had to do as this person's financial advisor wasn't to sell them any life insurance, wasn't to set him up with a cash reserve savings account to get his cash reserve built up. It wasn't to get any retirement fund set up. We had to fix their what?
Budget.
Yeah, their budget, their cash flow, right? The first two things in financial advising is cash flow, cash reserve. Just do this for yourself. Cash flow, cash reserve. So you want to make sure you get those two taken care of. Number one, that's step one in financial planning. Step one. So real quick, what's a cash reserve? It's the easiest thing in the world. You don't really need to go to the College of Financial Planning to learn how to teach somebody how to set up their cash reserve. All it is and with the key to the cash reserve is what? The cash flow. Cash flow is what? How much is coming in? How much is coming out? That's the cash flow. How much is coming in? How much is coming out? Well, if you know the cash flow, then you know how much is what? Coming out. How much is coming out is your monthly expenses, your living expenses. And you got to have how much of that set up in your cash reserve?
6 months.
6 months. So you just take that number, times it by 6. That's where you need to be. And if the number is 18, because your expenses are $3,000 a month, and you know you have 2, then you need to save up now 16,000, right? So I'd sit down here and I'd say, okay, our first goal, first target on the cash reserve side of things is we got to get $16,000 saved up. We got to get you up to 18,000, right? So in order to do that, we're not going to do that in a month. Probably not going to do that in a year. This is going to have to be a 3-year goal for us. You know, we're going to have to save $6,000 a year, basically. So we're gonna have to save about $100 a week, you know, and we'll get you right where we need to get you, you know. So so that's the first thing. We gotta save $400 to $500 a month into a cash reserve. That'll get it done in 3 years. Next thing is then we look at their and that's simple, right? Cash reserve. Just pause for a second. That's it. Think about that for a second. One of the most crucial things to financial planning, and it's that basic. You don't need an economics degree or any licensing or anything to coach somebody up on that, right? So for our personal sake, for our client's sake, most of our clients don't have that set up. Second thing is cash flow, cash reserve. So we'd have to make sure that if there is some money going out that doesn't need to be going out, stop that from happening. As a financial advisor, one of my toughest conversations to have with people was, you know, do we really need $800 a month in entertainment? You know, what's it really for, right? Do we really need to have the home phone? If you guys all got cell phones, would that save you $40 a month? You know what? I've been meaning to cancel that. Hey, everybody's cutting the cord. What are you paying for cable right now? These are conversations I'd have to have with people. And it's easier today. Because I did it. I want YouTube TV. I don't have the cord no more. I don't have to worry about, I don't have to worry about boxes and all that baloney. YouTube, anywhere I want to go, it's on every TV in this office. It's on my cell phone. It's on my home, my TV homes, my TVs at home, right? So for me to sell somebody on cutting the cord, and I knew that they're paying $180 a month like my parents pay $200 a month for cable. Do you think they're the only ones? I bet you the majority of the people on their block, boom, they're all doing it. And they all want a reason to cut the cable, right? They all want a reason to do it. I would flip it on them like that. I swear, it would be a great conversation. They would love me. Like, this dude's a genius. I'm glad this man knocked on my door today. Because I'd show them how, look, you're spending $230 a month on cable, right? And at the end of the day, if you passed away, guess what they're going to send her? Another bill for $235 a month, right? And guess what? If you wanted to go over there and watch it, how easy is it for you to do that? You know what all the TVs you're getting right now, every TV out, there's a smart TV. And guess all the smart TVs have on it? YouTube TV. So me, I just take my TV, put it up there and turn it on and boom, I got cable like that, right? So for you, I would tell them, for you, I could get you down to $70 a month on your cable. Now I should be commissioned over here for YouTube TV. They should be paying me for this, right? I should tell them, like, you know, everybody I flip over to you, you know, give me $5 off a month or something, you know? So I'll get you down to $70 a month over here with $60. I think it's $59.99. You know what I mean? And you're paying, I write it on a board. I just write it on a sheet of paper for them. Like, look, so you're paying $235, and when you die, your family gets nothing. Now, when you pay $70 a month over here, you're still going to get all the cable, and then we're going to take the $150 a month and put it towards this. And now when you die, your family gets $250,000 for the same thing you're doing.
I got a quick question, just on the cash reserve part, like back a little bit. When you said like you put $400 to $500 a month in your cash reserve, like in 6 years it should like grow to like the amount that you want. Is that like just if you only put it in your like a regular savings account? Because like, what if they were to put it in like a whole life account in order to grow at that 4.5% like savings? How fast? Would that still take 6 years, or is that? That's
not cash.
Different.
You don't want people's life insurance policy to be their cash reserve.
Okay.
Cash reserve needs to be liquidable, needs to be accessible, needs to be in a highly liquidable, accessible position.
Okay.
You know,
got it.
So you would literally put that, and that's going to get you no interest. You're going to just put that in their savings account. At my company, when I was an advisor, they had what's called a cash reserve certificate. It earned a little bit higher percentage, you know, was pretty much liquid. So,
okay. But
you want that to be in a liquid spot, savings account, basically. You got your checking account, got your savings account, right? Savings account got to be 3 months of your, or 6 months of your living expenses, right? Getting a 3 months was just even a huge, like, getting your head out of the hole a little bit, gives you a little bit of breathing room. You know, it made me feel a lot more comfortable for them, you know, and working with them. But I mean, you write this on a sheet of paper right there, right? They should be loving you after this. If somebody was paying $200 a month for cable, I would be licking my chops, right? At a major opportunity to really change that person's life. They change their, dude, think about this. Right now, they're sitting on the couch watching Dancing with the Stars, and when they die, their family gets nothing. Tomorrow, they turn it on and they watch The Masked Singer, and now if they passed away, then because not everybody who goes to bed after The Masked Singer is guaranteed to wake up the next morning, right? And if that happened to your family, now their family gets $250,000, and they still got to see the same show, same quality. It's in HD. You tell them, I'll be selling this. It's an HD. It comes on at the same time. You could turn it up as loud as you want. It's the same exact thing. But now when you pass away, your family gets $250,000. That's the difference over here, you know? And all they had to do is tune in and watch TV for about an hour. And they got it. You know what I mean?
That was good.
Change the game for them. So that'd be something, you know, small. But now let's go back to the question that she asked is, you know, why? Because the unions know that there's all kinds of things that their families need to do, but out of everything that they need to do, this is the most number one priority that needs to happen, is because 95% of the families that we meet with do not have this in place. And this is the first and most important thing. Because you could put, hey, yeah, sure, I could get you set up with, you know, all kind of investments, and we could save all kind of money for you. And God forbid, not if, but when something happens to you, because we're not guaranteed tomorrow, life's going to happen. And when something happens, when we pass away, everything we would have built up will be gone, because none of it's going to get passed on to anybody. And what they're finding out right now is each generation, our families are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. Funeral directors are getting richer and richer and richer. Mortgage companies are getting richer and richer and richer. Right? The government don't care. So what they found out is this is the only thing that can guarantee all that other stuff. If we put it into a 401k, an IRA, a Roth IRA, an investment, you know how much of that's guaranteed? None of it, right? That's why they put this in place for the members. They can't deal in gray areas. This is straight black and white. This is guaranteed. When you pass away, this is guaranteed to go to our members, and there's no worries, and nobody has to worry about that. And that's why they continue to work with our company, because we've been around for over 70 years now. We just hit our 70-year anniversary this year. We were founded in 1951. It's 2021. We've been in business for 70 years. And we've been trusted by over 40,000 different organizations. And each organization, they have a financial advisor that's responsible for making sure all their members are in the best hands possible. So they got together with us, and over the years, there's been a lot of changes. The concerns that they have today are not concerns that they had back in the 70s. Okay, the 70s were way different concerns than they are today. You know, now they went over the years and updated the benefits, and today these are the most important concerns that they have us covering for all the members. So, you know, what else do I'll hit on is that, you know, each organization has a financial advisor, and their job is to check all the benefits too. So all the benefits that we get out to all the members, these benefits have been checked by over 40,000 different organizations and their financial advisors. And what they make a rule to do is they make a rule to triple check the benefits every single year. So, you know, if we have around 40,000 different organizations triple checking these benefits with their financial advisors, you know, you could essentially say that these have been checked over 120,000 different times before they were even brought out here to you. So that's why they need to make sure that the most important things were covered, and this is most prevalent, and that's why I need to make sure most members have this. Now, if you are interested in those things, I would recommend for you to talk to a licensed financial advisor, you know, that can give you advice on that kind of stuff. But, you know, I would talk to a couple, even if it's you know, I would just tell them interview a couple, you know, and find out somebody you'd be comfortable working with, if that's something you really wanted to get involved with, you know. But for us, I wouldn't even worry, you know, I would just deflect that, you know, and be honest with them. Like if he told you he had a toothache, right? Well, hey, what if he's sitting there and you're going over this, right? Think about this. It's the same thing. You're like, well, I know you helped out. You know, I had a problem. I didn't have life insurance. You're able to help me out with that. How come you guys don't do toothaches? It's the same reason. Because we're not like, it's not the unions didn't have us out here to take care of toothaches, because that's not the main problem right now. The main problem isn't toothaches. If it was toothaches, I'd be out here and I'd be taking care of toothaches for you, right? The main problem right now is this. It's not that. That is just if you're lucky enough to have anything left over, yeah. But at the end of the day, if when you pass away, what's the number one tool that they use to pass? I don't know why this stopped.
And you perhaps make that pass or send it out back. You found a way to wrap
All right, so does any of that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So somebody hit me with, I want to think about it, and I told them that whole thing about how we have, you know, checked 120,000 every time. So I know you want to think about it, but if you really think about it, they already thought about it for you, which is pretty nice. So that's why they set it up on an enrollment basis like this, because they felt like they could do it like that, because it's been checked and approved by all the other members, you know. So if it makes sense, they ask you to enroll today, Joe. You know, and what's the most important thing in enroll to you? Family, right? You know, and if you had to say family, if I had to ask you, what would you say your family would be worth to you if you had to put a price tag on your family? Can't do it. Can't really do that. A lot of people, everyone tells me priceless, right? Well, fortunately, there's just a price protecting our family, which is like what, $150 a month, like $30-some a week, less than a cable and a cell phone bill. You know, but if you think about it, Joe, when's the most important time for us to start protecting our family? Yeah, well, actually probably yesterday, right? Okay, so what we're gonna do today for you guys is we're gonna make sure that you get your foot in the door with the benefits, okay, to make sure your family's protected, but we'll also make sure we keep it comfortable at the same time. Does that make sense for you? Okay, great. You know, and slide right in there. So, I don't know, that's probably the best way I could answer that question, but also give a whole bunch of other stuff along with it. You know, but keep it on the financial advisor tip. If you just want to go, then guess what? There's 6 steps to being a financial advisor. To 6 steps to putting together a financial plan for a client. So if you want to put together a financial plan for yourself, for your parents, or if you just want to understand what's going on here, okay, that's step number 1 was what? Cash flow, cash reserve. You can just write these down. We'll just give all 6 of them in a row, okay? So I don't go on tangents over each one of them. So step number 2 is protection planning. Step number 3 is goal planning. Step number 4, retirement planning. Step number 5, tax planning. Step number 6, estate planning. So we talked about 1, right? Any other questions on 1? Just to touch on cash flow, that's just literally just writing down all of your expenses, you know, and writing down the money that's coming in. That's it. 2 ways to fix the cash flow, right? Decrease the expenses, or my favorite, increase the income. My mom would always be like, your expenses are too high. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go make more money. I'll make more money. Her solution was what? Lower your expense. I said, I'm not lowering my expenses. I'm gonna go make more money. You know, I'll work for it. I don't mind. I don't mind. So those are the 2 ways you fix the cash flow. Right? Now, protection planning is twofold. The first thing I would have to do, I had to make sure they had income protection, because that was the most important thing that they had, is that income. So you were able to put in place disability. So like the guy was working and that family, that gentleman earned $50,000 a year. He's proven to be a $50,000 a year asset to his family. So guess what? His family is able to insure that. Dolly Parton, I think her boobs, I don't know, somebody told me this. I think Paul Amalo's hair, right? His hair has proven, he can factually prove to people that his hair has made him X amount of millions of dollars, right? Because he does the commercials for the Head and Shoulders, right? So now he has insurance on the asset that makes him money. If something were to happen to that, he could lose out on what? Money. So he insured it, and if something does happen, guess what? The insurance company pays him the money, right?
You need to prove it first, right? So like
you have to prove it, yeah. So that's why you have to show that for the last 5 years, I've been earning 50 grand a year. I'm a $50,000 a year asset. if I fall on this ice out here and break my back and I can't work for 2 years because I have to do rehabilitative surgery and learn how to walk and stuff, if I can prove that I'm worth 50, if I get insurance, they'll insure me. There's insurance companies that will insure your income called disability. You could get short-term and long-term. So it says long-term disability says if you're hurt and 6 months go by and you still can't go to work, it's going to start paying you your income. And you can insure up to a certain percentage of your income. So I make 100 grand a year, I can insure long-term maybe 70% of it. So the company will pay me 70 grand a year until I'm able to go back to work. And if I never go back to work, it's called long-term disability. It'll pay me all the way to age 65. Wow. That's what a long-term disability. But guess what I also got? I also got short-term disability because what am I going to do for the 6 months from now until then, right? So you have to get a separate policy, and that pays 85% of your missed income. And that says if you can't go, if you're hurt longer than a month, right, then it'll pay you for the next 5 months, and it'll pay you back your first month of income, 85%. And then after 6 months, then your long-term disability kicks in, right? So that's how that works. That's something that we would help our clients get set up with, right? Because I'm trying to make a plan for you. I don't want to be here 5 years from now. I work all kind of hours trying to put all kind of planning in for you, and then you slip and fall. We lose all the income. The whole plan goes to shit. We just lost everything. All the money we saved up, all the planning for nothing now. But if I put insurance on him, guess what? No matter what he does, that income's always going to be coming in. This plan's always going to work. And if he dies, guess what? We got life insurance in place. We got the money coming in to make sure the plan works for the family that's left behind. Right? So the two types of insurance will be income and then life insurance. So I sit down with a client, and literally the first thing I go over when I was like, here's how much money you make, here's how much money your expenses are. We got to get your cash reserve set up. Next thing I got to do is so here's what I did. Think about this. Think about this. So we go like this. We go like this. So you make $4,000 a month. Your expenses are $3,400. So you have $600 left at the end of the month, right? Here's what you got to do with that. Some of it you got to put towards savings because you got to save up for your cash reserve, right? And then the rest of it, we're going to put into insurance. So now I have to get them life insurance. And the guy paid me $675 to give him advice. A year. Minimum. Some of my clients pay me way more than that. The minimum financial planning fee was $675. So I'd sit down with like your parents or your uncle or someone, and they say, okay, we want you to take care of all this. I said, I could take care of your savings. I can get you set up with protection. I can help you plan for taxes, get you set up for retirement, make sure when you're at the end of this thing, all the money gets passed on to your family and not to the government. Everybody get your hands in the pockets, right? That's gonna be $675 a year. And for that, you'll get me, my planning, my advice. I'll meet with you 2-3 times a year, you know, and all this stuff. And after I meet with the people, they pay me that $675, which is coincidentally, basically like, it's like a $60 check. It's like a $65 check here. It's $70 a month, basically. You know, so before I even came here, I was already charging people basically like 70, you know, the average ALP, pretty much I was charging people that boom up front, just to be like their advisor. Then I would sell them life insurance and I'd make the ALP on that, and I'd invest their money. I'd make the on all that too. But anyways, it was a racket because pretty much I was they called me a glorified life insurance salesman. Life insurance, you know, they're pretty much just a glorified life insurance salesman, because I would take all your money and I'd save it, and then I'd take the rest of it and I'd sell you life insurance with it. That's what we did. But it was, and I was mad at my boss for it. I was like, dude, I don't want to do this. I want to invest money. I want to be in the stock market, man. You know, Wall Street. He's like, we got to get them set up with protection first before we think about doing anything else, you know? And I was like, what do you mean? And it took him a while. He showed me videos on it. He showed me people doing, like, telling testimonials about how important life insurance was. And I immediately went from not understanding and being like not wanting to sell people life insurance to like, oh, we got to give people life insurance. You know, in fact, I got to get myself a policy. So, because like, if I'm going to get other people life insurance, I got to get myself a policy. So I went and got $168 a month life insurance policy for $250,000 to the age of 21, because that's called being sold yourself. And then for the rest of my life, if anybody talks about life insurance, guess what I have? Enthusiasm. I have enthusiasm because I am sold myself, right? What's you guys know it. I am sold myself. And then if you spell enthusiasm, that's what it is. So if you're sold yourself about something, anytime that comes up, you're going to have natural enthusiasm around it, right? And you want to surround yourself with enthusiastic people, with enthusiasts. And that's one of the keys in our playbook by what? Hugh Bell. Hugh Bell, right? Have enthusiasm. Okay. So the third thing was what? Goal planning. Just to touch on that. What's goal planning? Goal planning is helping the client plan for any of their goals: a wedding, birthday party, for a 60th birthday, vacations, you know, graduation parties, helping them do short-term goal planning. Then the third thing is retirement planning, helping them make sure they have a long-term goal and a game plan in place for the retirement. So that basically meant trying to free up money, trying to, you know, get the cash reserve built up, trying to work with them on paying debt off to free up some more money, helping them use any money they have from their 401k, from their company. Like if a company is matching them 6% and they're only putting in 3%, they're missing out. So I make sure they're maximizing that kind of stuff as well for the retirement. And but then after that was tax planning, right? So tax planning would be making sure that in retirement they weren't all, you know, stuck in one area of being fully taxable and have any, you know, tax burdens. And one way to help with all of this stuff was having the life insurance, you know, especially ones that had cash value life insurance. I knew that I accomplished pretty much two things with that. I'm helping accomplish step number 2, which was protection planning, but I'm also helping accomplish step number 5, which is retirement planning, and step number 6, which is tax planning, or step number 5, retirement, 6 taxes, or 4 retirement, 5 taxes, and 6 legacy, all are being helped with the life insurance. Life insurance helps with their retirement planning. Life insurance helps with their tax planning, and life insurance helps with their legacy planning as well. So I found out later how much more important it was than just being life insurance like I thought it was. You know, it was much more pivotal. So retirement planning, tax planning, and then legacy planning is making sure that the money gets passed on to their family at the end of the day. That's pretty much what we did. So the whole point of all that was that, you know, as a financial advisor, you know the importance that's pretty much the number 2 most important thing that we have to do. And most families never make it there. Most families are still stuck on 1. Most families never examine their cash flow, right? Think of how many of us, you know, look at our cash flow. Going into this new year, we should all get an examine of our 2021 cash flow and what it is today, okay? And then we can look at later on in a year from now what it changes to. Look at your cash reserve. I mean, most families, they're still stuck on step 1, never even make it to step 2, you know? So there we go. Any other questions on any of this stuff?
Good.
Okay. That's just a broad thing. Each one of those sections, we could go into a 3-hour conversation or 30-hour conversation. And some of those, the retirement section will just be never ending. I was a chartered retirement planning counselor. So I had to go to work every day, 80 hours a week, but also I had to study on the side and get my certification to become a retirement planning counselor, you know? So I also had to do that for long-term care. So I got certified as a long-term care counselor as well, you know? And long-term care is if you, let's say your parents, someone who's older, if they ever have to go into special like nursing care, or you want to have a nurse come to the house, or if they have to live, you know, at a special facility with special, you know, needs or whatever it has to be, lot can be very expensive and it's not covered under insurances really. So then the family ends up having to pay for that. And then as a financial advisor, we just spend our whole entire lives building up all this money for you. And then it all goes to the home care house or the nursing company who sends the nurse to the house, right? Because they're charging you $7,000 a week, you know, or something crazy like that. So you can purchase upfront long-term care insurance that if that happens, that they will pay a portion of that, you know, so your family doesn't get hit with the burden as much, and it can help save, you know, preserve the wealth, you know. So that's good. It's good to have, you know, it's good to have. I didn't sell too much of that though, to be honest with you. So anyways, yeah, so just as far as retirement goes, we could go on and on and on. There's just so much. There's so much. There's so many different products out there. I at the end of the day, I realized I was like, heck with this. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. Yeah, I could tell you a little about ETFs. I could tell you about exchange traded funds. I could tell you about SMAs. I could tell you about mutual funds. You know, I could tell you about the sub accounts inside your VUL. You know, I could show you how to set up a 401k for your company. We could use a 401k. It's a small business. Maybe we'll just use a SIP IRA, SEP IRA for your people, right? I could show you how to set up, you know, a life insurance policy to protect this guy. And so if you passed away, your business won't get hurt. Because, you know, you do key business insurance, which is something we should have a class on. Because if you meet with business owners out there, that's a huge thing. You could put key person insurance on people in the business. And if you have any family members that own businesses and they know people that own businesses and bars and stuff like that, husband and wife that own a bar, you know, like if one of the family members passes away and that's a key person in the business is pretty much losing half of their human capital, their assets, you know. So a lot of them, the small businesses will do stuff like that. And those are big policies and the business pays for it. You know, so it's not coming out of a personal checking account, so you get a bigger check on that, and it usually has to be a bigger policy as well. You know, but anyways, I could do all that stuff, but I wasn't mastering any of it. I wasn't like the #1 person in key business insurance. I wasn't the #1 life insurance guy. I wasn't the #1 this. What I was good at was client acquisition. I was pretty much the #1 person, the top person, number 10 in the company. In my first 2 years for client acquisition. I was able to bring on clients because I believed in what I was doing. I was sold on it and I had enthusiasm and I was telling everybody about it and I was getting them to tell everybody about it. And it got to the point where people were calling me Tommy Wall Street, my friends. You know, that's what they would call me because that's all I was about. If I'm about something, I go 110% into it, you know? So but I was bringing them in because I knew that I'd be better off if they were working with me than nobody, because most people work with nobody. And I had a team of people that I trusted, like my mentors and everybody. I was like, if I got my uncle to bring his business over here, I know, you know, I got Todd, I got Anthony, Todd Murata, Anthony Ross. These two guys were my managers at the time when I was an advisor, and they would do their stuff. So I just felt like we could help them. So I brought a lot of clients on, but really, after 3 years, it was a good 3 years. I learned a lot. I worked 80 hours a week, every week. I was sold 110%. Didn't even want to go on family vacations. My mom had to beg me to come to the beach the 1 week. And I realized, though, that like I said, I was a jack of all trades, master of none. I was making maybe $70,000 after 3 years, right? And I was like one of the top people. And that's when I struck. I was like, they're giving me an award for being the top person. And everybody was always like, well, there's Tommy. I wonder what Tommy's doing. Yeah. And I'm thinking, when you work really hard and you become number one, you're gonna make like 70 grand. That's when it hit me. I was like, number one person is making 70, 80 grand. I felt bad for people. They're trying to be me. And I was like, when you get here, you're gonna make 70 grand. It's not that great. And I was working my butt off. So I left that, came here. When I saw the numbers and I just saw the opportunity, it was just astronomical. So when I left there, instead of doing like 6 different things, now I'm just doing one, right? And when 6 different things, I was doing 70 different things because now I had to go market. So I had to get all my clients. I'm like, wait a minute, we don't have to market here. I don't have to spend 80 hours a week. I have to spend 80% of my time, 80 hours a week. So how many hours is that? 60 hours a week, trying to figure out ways to get in front of clients, cold calling, prospecting, marketing. I could take that time and actually just put it into setting appointments, growing my business, meeting with people. If you're spending more than the majority of your time trying to find the people, then you're spending less than the majority of your time actually meeting with the people. I saw here, we could flip-flop that. I could spend more time meeting with people and less time having to find them people. In fact, I don't got to find anybody, right? So that right there was probably one of the biggest reasons I came was for the marketing to the company. Besides the residual income, because I had to have both. Had to have the residual income. I wouldn't leave that career and came here just for the marketing. Had to have the residual income, right? And I was going over, the residual income the other day with the training class, and just explaining it to them, the power of it. And I think it's important for you guys and everybody to just really know, what you're building and how much power is involved in that. When you look at somebody who would invest money, talking about all these investments, man, here's why I don't even mess with investments. Listen to Tony Robbins, Money Master of the Game. That's a good thing to listen to when you're driving around. Just listen to Tony Robbins, Money Master of the Game. You got to listen to it. That'll pretty much tell you why I don't do, because I believe what he wrote in this book. So, but based upon what he's telling me in this book, I'm done with mutual funds. Sad part though, is for those 3 years as a financial advisor, guess where I would invest your money if you had money? Hey, Tommy, I got 10 grand in an IRA. All right, great. What should I do with it? I would help him put it into a mutual fund. I'd find Fidelity, New Insights. I'd put it in that, or I'd go in the Franklin Templeton and we'd put it into some sort of an international fund. And it was a mutual fund. And if you listen to Tony Robbins, Money Master of the Game, you're not going to want to mess with mutual funds, probably after hearing that. But anyways, I used to sell people mutual funds, and I realized it's like no good. I used to put people into IRAs that you can't touch till you're 59 and a half. So think about this for a second. If Tommy puts money into his IRA, Tommy's 21, right?
Yeah.
21. So you put money into an IRA, you can't touch it till you're 59 and a half, right? What is he going to invest his money into in this IRA if you go to any financial advisor? We already said it. Mutual funds, right? And if you look at the mutual funds, what are they invested into? Stock market, right? If you get into a great mutual fund and it takes advantage of the stock market, let's say it gets 10% a year.
Well, not to cut you off, but is this for Roth and traditional IRAs?
Yeah, it don't matter. Any type of IRA. This is just yeah, because a Roth IRA, you can't touch that till you're 59 and a half. IRA, SEP IRA, simple, 401k, all of those tax, they give you this, it's called like what do they call those? It's like a benefit. You know, you get a tax, you get a benefit for using those. They don't tax you on them. You know, tax deferred, right? So, so anyways, you put the money in there and it grows by 10%. But what they found out though is there's all kind of fees inside these, all kind of fees. Most mutual funds don't grow at 10%. First of all, this is a big if. I think the average might be like 7%. But at this point, you're going to spend, from what he's saying, is another 3 to 4% gets chewed up through all kind of internal expenses, because they have to hire fund managers to manage this. There's electronic expenses. There's they have to do buy and sell things, right? So there's operating expenses. All of that stuff gets chewed up in there. So the point is, though, is I had $60,000 sitting in one of these, and I'm 30 years old, and I'm thinking, so for the next 29 years, I have to sit there and watch this 60 grand. My 60 grand, if it grows, what's the rule of 72, guys? 72, right, divided by what? Your interest rate tells you how many years it takes for your money to double, right? So I'm thinking, all right, if I'm getting 7% in this account, right, 72 divided by 7 equals what? 10. So that means my money's going to double every 10 years. So I'm thinking I got 60 at what? Age 30. So that means by age 40, it's going to be worth 120. By age 50, it's going to be worth 240. By age 60, it'd be worth, what's that? 480. 480? 480. That's what I'm thinking, right? So I go, well, why don't I take the 60 grand, put it into real estate? I want my money where I can touch it, right? I have to put it there, I can't touch it, and I have to wait till, and if something happens, guess what? Can't touch it. So 60 grand, you can buy a $300,000 townhouse in the area where I lived in Pittsburgh, okay? And I can put 10% down on that. That's the house I bought. Let's just go to the investment, okay? Investment, they want 20%. So you put 20% down. Let's just use this. Forget what I did with my house. So they want 20% down. So 60% or 60 grand is 20%. So over here, when I was 30, I had my money, there's $60,000, okay? And guess what my $60,000 bought me? Inside that IRA, it was a SEP IRA, it was 60-some thousand, 68 or whatever. Guess what I bought with that 68,000? I bought $68,000 worth of mutual funds. So guess what I owned? I owned $68,000 worth of mutual funds because I bought them. So I owned them, right? Over here, I took $60,000 and guess what I bought? How much?
20% of them?
I own a $300,000 townhouse or $60,000 worth of stock. Let's just use this example real quick. Let's just forget this. Let's go over here. All right, you got 100 grand. Bob got 100 grand, right? Here's you. There's Bob, right? Bob takes his 100 grand He buys 100 grand worth of mutual funds. Okay. And Bob gets 7% on his mutual funds, right? But Bob ends up yielding 5% because of the expenses. So his money is going to grow by 5% in his mutual funds. And he does that for, I don't know, let's just say 5 years. So how much money is Bob going to have at the end of them 5 years? His 100 grand is going to be worth what? $125. You got it. It's not a trick question. Andreas got it. It's 125. That makes sense? Now, obviously, there's, 5% of 110. It's a little bit more because of compounding interest. But safely, if you use simple interest versus compounding interest, I think that's called simple interest, right? Would be 125. You guys with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, so Bob has, after 5 years, what's Bob got? He got 125. Here's what you do. You take this, right? And you go buy investment property with it. Okay? Your investment property, you put 20% in, you buy a $500,000 investment property with that. That makes sense? You rent it out, okay? You get a 15-year mortgage on it. You rent it out. You don't have, a lot of people will tell you don't do that because they want you to get the cash flow, okay? So most people will tell you get a 30-year mortgage because it'll give you more cash flow. I would rather just do a 15-year mortgage because it just builds a lot more equity inside the house. When you go to sell it, 15 years, it's already, you got the equity built up faster. Somebody paying for it anyways. So, because you rent this thing out now, you rent this out, okay? Whatever your property is, you're going to rent it out. So it's paying for itself. So 5 years go by and this appreciates in value as well. What's your home appreciating value at? What do you think?
10%.
No. Let's just say it appreciates, I don't know. Let's say you hook it up a little bit. I don't know. Let's just say that it appreciates at 5%. Maybe 3% to 5%. We'll use 5 first, okay? So now, what's 5% of 500,000?
25,000.
25,000. And we grew by 25,000, how many years? Times, how many years? Times 5 years, right? So that means it appreciated by 125,000.
What would you get the 5 years? Or you just meant comparing?
This is what Bob did. Remember
Oh,
Bob?
5 years.
Remember Bob bought stock? He bought mutual funds for 100 grand, and his mutual funds grew by 7%. He yielded 5. So his grew by $5,000 in interest, right, for 5 years. So his 100 turned into 125, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you did that for 5 years, but you bought a house. You put 100 grand into your house. But when you put his 100 grand got him $100,000 worth of mutual funds. Your 100 grand got you what? $500,000 worth of property. You guys know what I'm doing right now? What's the word? What's the word? Leverage. You are leveraging your money. Leveraging means you're using other people's money. This is why people should not pay your car off when you get enough money. I had 25 grand. I said, Dad, should I pay my car off? Because I owed about 25 grand on my car. 25. He said, no, don't do that. If you take your 25 and you give it to Chrysler or GM, they are going to have $25,000. You're not going to have no money. If something happens to you, guess what you got? No money. You think they're going to care? No. Right? Keep your 25. Give them $300 a month and tell them to shut up. If something happens to you, you're good to go. Right?
Yeah.
I met a gentleman who was late 40s, maybe 50 years old, this guy. And he came to me and said, can I borrow money for my mortgage? And I'm like 20 some years old. I'm feeling real bad for this guy. I'm like, I mean, what do I do? You know, I can't have him like, you know, but I talked to him about the situation. I said, well, how'd you get into this situation? What happened, man? He said, I had last year when I worked for this company before they downsized, they gave me a bonus, 60 grand. I crushed it, man. It was great. Look, I got a picture. This is the picture of me, you know, for the year. We were so happy. And he said, I said, well, what did you do with the money? He said, I paid off the BMW and I paid off the SUV. I said, what do you got left? He said, nothing. But you got 2 cars sitting in your driveway and you can't have 2 nickels together to pay your bills. And you're asking me for money. I said, here's what I told him. I said, when you sell those cars and you sell everything else you have and you still don't have enough money, come see me and maybe I'll talk to you. But I'm not giving you money when you got 2 cars in your driveway right now that you can pay. You can sell those things. You don't want it bad enough. You're looking for an easy way out. He sees me with money, thinks I'm going to just give him money for to pay his bills when he got shit he could do. When you, like, that's coming on the Shark Tank. You want to come on a Shark Tank? And I said, oh, it's a great product. It's a great product. But if I go into business, I'm going to business with who? Not with the product. I'm going to business with you. I'm going to business with you. I'm not going into business with your little gizmo that you brought in here today, right? So you're asking me for money. How much money you want? Well, if you give me $500,000, I'll give you 10% of my business. Okay. Why do you need $500,000 for me? Why don't you have it yourself? Well, I invested every penny that I had, sir. Okay, great. Well, why don't you go borrow from your family members? Why are you asking me? Actually, I did. We're broke. Like everybody gave me every nickel we got. Okay. Well, why don't you go to the creditors? Why are you asking me? I did. Okay. So you're here right now because there's really no other way for you to raise this capital. Let's talk. What's your product about? The guy comes and wants money from me, but he got the money in the bank. You got 500 grand. Why you want my 500 grand? You ain't even bought in yourself. I want somebody, like, why would, you know what I'm saying? So that's the whole point on that. What were we just talking about again? The house, right? So this makes now check this out. So 5 years go by and my 500,000 just appreciated, right? Now the property's worth maybe 600,000. Even if it grew by 3%, which 3%, that's 15, 3 times 5, 15, that's 80 grand. So even if it grew by 3%, it'd be worth 580 grand, okay? But also what happened is over 5 years, the tenants paid down my mortgage, right? So now my equity in the home isn't 100,000 anymore. My equity in the home could probably be 200,000. So the equity in the home's worth 200,000 and the property value just went up to what? 600,000, let's say. Let's just say 600, right? Now at the end of the day, I sell. We sell this house, right? They're going to give me a check for what? 600,000, right? I'm going to make 600,000. I'm going to have 200,000 built up in this, plus the overall value is going to grow by 100,000. So now my 100,000 is worth 300,000. Here, let me break it down a little bit different so you can understand this, okay? I don't want to confuse it, but so look, we bought the property for 500, we put in 100, right? It's now worth 600. the equity in the house is now built up to 200, right? If we bought it for 500, the equity's worth 200. What do we owe on the house still? We still owe 300, right? I'm going to sell the house for what? 600, and I owe what?
300.
So what's left?
300.
300. That's another different way to think about it. The other way to think about it is I bought it for 5 and it increased to 6, so that's plus 100. And then the mortgage got paid down. And why did it get paid down? Why did it go from 100 to 200,000 in equities? Because we got a 15-year mortgage. If you get a 30-year mortgage for the first 5 to 10 years, nothing gets paid off of it. Nothing even gets paid off of it. But if I did that on my house in Pittsburgh, I got a 15-year mortgage. I only owned a home for 3 years, but it's $1 million house. I'm paying $8,000 a month. You pick your head up 3 years from now. I had an extra $100,000 in equity built up in that house. Like, this is great. You know, I closed on February 1st. I'm going to get a check for $330,000. Wasn't bad. I only put 90 into it. I got my house. I got it for like $950,000. Selling it for over $1 million. Got it for and that's only 3 years ago. Got it for $950,000. I put 10% down, so I put $95,000 down, and now I'm going to walk away with a check for $330,000 on February 1st. 3 years later, because I did a 15-year mortgage. If I did a 30-year mortgage, I'd be walking away with a check for $100,000. Same money I put in, I'd be just getting back.
Wow.
But guess what? My payment would have been $8,000 a month. It would have been like $5,000 a month.
So with the 30-year plan, you said the first couple of years.
30 years, $5,000 a month. 15 years, $8,000 a month. What do you want to do? I'd bite the bullet. Rather pay all that up front. Pay now, play later. Right? Everything. It's a philosophy I do with everything, man.
So the mortgage you said with the 30-year plan, the first couple of years it doesn't pay off the house.
No.
Is it going, or what's going on?
You're just paying interest. It's called amortization. Yep, pull up the amortization chart, which I did, and that's the only reason I did this is because I did the math on it. If I would have did a 30-year mortgage, I would have paid an extra like $300,000 for my house. I saved Yep, I called up Matty. He had a 30-year mortgage. I said, hey man, you know the bank's bending you over right now. You better go get that 30-year down to a 15. One of the best moves he ever made. Literally, I saved him $100,000 right there. That piece of advice saved my best friend $100,000 that literally was going to go to the bank. You know, the Monopoly guy, that the money was going to go to him. I gave it to my boy, Matty D now. Great feeling.
I got a quick question. So
that'll make up on the bet we lost this week because I told him to bet on the Steelers.
For the 125,000, you said that was appreciating or depreciating on the house behind?
Appreciating. Houses don't depreciate.
That's what I was just. And then for that amount, does that go also towards the final, like, what does that go towards in the numbers you did up above there?
Yeah, so there's two things going on. You know, you have on top, you have a price of a house is the top. Up here you have a house worth $500,000, right? There's your house worth $500,000. Down here, you own $100,000 of it, but you still owe $400,000, right? So what you're doing is you're making payments on this. You ain't making payments though. Who's making payments? The tenant, right? Unless you own the house, right? You're making payments on it. And now over 3 years, 5 years go by. 5 years go by. Now you built up. Now it's worth. Now you put $200,000 in by paying off the debt. So now instead of owing $400,000, now you owe what? $300,000. And if you keep paying on it, guess what's going to happen when you keep paying your mortgage payments, right? Now all of a sudden you paid $300,000. Now you only owe $200,000. And if you keep paying on it, this is probably a 15-year mortgage. You're probably like 12 years in now, you know, or whatever, 10 years in. Now you paid $400,000. Now you only owe $100,000, right? The cool thing about this is when you sell it, that's more money back for you, right? You go $5,000. You bought it for you sell it for $5,000. You owe $100,000. You're going to clear $400,000 profit, right? Or $400,000 and so this is what's going on. Now on the top end though, this ain't staying at $5,000. what's going on with this? It's going up. It's the value of your property, right? Your property value shouldn't go down. Always should be going up. So this is going up, and like I said, maybe it goes up to 600,000, right? And you're over here right now. 5 years have gone by. You got 200,000 paid into it. So you owe what on this house? If you paid, if you bought it for 5, you took a loan out. They gave you a loan for 5, and you paid 2 in. You still owe what? 300. You owe 300,000 there. And now you go to sell the house. And what did you sell your house for?
600.
600.
So you made 300.
So you made 300. Right?
Yep. Thank you.
Now that's 5 years have gone by, right? So what you did is you took 100,000. You took 100,000. 5 years go by, and it's worth what? 300. Now I'm going to tell you, there's going to be closing costs and all kind of other baloney in here, right? So you might end up with 250 or even less at the end of the day. So let's just say expenses and stuff to do business get you 250, right? Over here, your 100,000 after 5 years is worth what? 125. You know, so that's the difference. That's what leveraging can do for you. That make sense?
Yes.
So that's why putting money into a 401k, I'd rather just take my 60,000, buy a property in 15 years. Look, so I put 60 grand in, 15 years go by, and I bought a $300,000 property. 15 years go by. And what's that $300,000 property going to be worth? Let's just say 400,000. And how much am I going to owe on it? Nothing. 0. Right? Now I could take that 400,000, and this is just what I wouldn't do this though. What I would do is this 60 grand. Once the equity built up into this house, I would probably refinance it halfway through, like 7-8 years, and I would probably get another property to start this process sooner. But I'm just doing like the long, let's just flip them every 15, right? So now you take the 400, and we know that 60 can get you 300 because it's what, 20%. So that means what's 20% over here? 2 mil. So you're 400,000 now. If I want to buy a piece of property, I can put 20% down. And not one property. Let's say I get a bunch of properties. Maybe it's an apartment complex. Maybe it's like 6 condominiums. Maybe it's 10 townhouses for $200,000 each, right? But I buy $2 million worth of property. How many circles is that? Okay. $2 million worth of property. And it cost me what? 400 grand, right? 15 years go by. Those are all paid off, right? And now they all appreciated as well. So now they're worth, let's just say 2.5 million, and that's all paid off. And how many years went by? 30 years. What I had, 60, 2.5, 30-year program, right? I put my money into this stupid thing that the guy wanted me to put my money in, 60 grand. Remember, we did it. It's going to double every 10 years at 7%. So 10 years is going to be worth 120. 20 years, right? 20 years will be worth 240. 30 years will be worth what? This is what Bob did, and this is what you did. You guys getting it?
Yeah, that's crazy. Wow.
I'm sure my numbers are a little bit off over here and there, but even if it's off a little bit, the point is you got 2 different paths to do with your money. That's why I took all my money out of the SEP, Simplified Employee Pension took it out. I had $60-some thousand in it. I paid the fee, paid the taxes, give me my money, put it into this, and just let this do its thing. Right? And then you take it, so that's what, you're 51. Do it one more time. Do it one more time. What do you think 2.5 million can get you? 2.5 million, that can get you at 20%. What's that? 10 mil, that's 20, that's 25%, right? Yeah, so it'll get you at least $10 million worth of property. And you rent that stuff out. And then when you're, how old, what would that be? 66? Tommy will be 66, he'll have $10 million worth of property paid off, right? And then if you think about what you can return on that, you know, you could probably get, you know, a good 5%. Like I had a $300,000 townhouse over in Pittsburgh, just sold it. And my rent was $2,500 a month on that. So what percentage is that? 2,500 is what, 3 grand, 30 grand a year? Right? 30 grand a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And 30 grand a year is 10%. See that? 30 grand a year is 10% of the property value. You know? So if you can get 10%, that's great. Let's just say that you're getting 8%. What's 8% of 10 mil? 800,000. 800,000. That's your rent that they pay you. That's your, what you get off of that. Wow. You know? So that's why I got out of the market.
And you can do that like with a group of people too, right? Like you said, like buy townhouses or all that condominiums.
I mean, yeah, you can buy with other people if you need to, but it don't. There's really, I don't see. You know, sometimes it could be a benefit, I guess, to leverage in certain situations. You know, to get on a bigger investment that might yield maybe a little bit of a higher profit, but there's also a bigger risk involved as well. You know, so that's why sometimes people want to do it, is because bigger investments are bigger risks, and they don't want to. They'd rather, you know, disperse the risk out and give 10% to you, 10% to you, 10% to you. That way, if I get hit, I'm only getting hit for 10% myself versus taking a whole bullet. You know, so that's way to do it. But yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to give you guys that. That's just a whole nother side of things. I don't know if you ever thought about that, you know, or learned about leverage, right? But there's a lot more that goes into this as well. That's the way to just take your money, use other people's money, and they call it leveraging your money. Cool. All right, I know it didn't have nothing to do with closing or anything today, but you guys are well equipped, you're well knowledge. Just know that you know what you're doing. You know better than the client. Just you're smarter in this field. You know what I mean? Like if I sat down with somebody and they were a doctor, they would be smarter in that field. You know, if they were driving a train, they're smarter in driving trains than me. I'm listening to them. When it comes to this, you're the doctor of this. You're the smart. You're the one who they're going to be listening to. You know, so that's it, guys. Thanks for the time today. Great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. That was awesome.